What's going on, football world? It's Carter with X's and O's, and on this video I'm going to be discussing the basic coverage rules for a simple cover 4. First thing I'm going to start out by doing is drawing a offensive formation. So I'm going to put in a center, there's a guard, there's a tackle, there's a guard, and a tackle. I'm going to put my quarterback in shotgun for this video, and then I'm going to start putting in the wide receivers. I'm going to put the wide receivers in X's and O's yellow. Let's put an X on top of the numbers. Let's put an H right outside of the numbers, an H back. Let's keep the fullback in the backfield with the quarterback for the time being. Let's split out the Y, but keep the Y or the tight end on the line of scrimmage, and let's put the Z off of the line of scrimmage. Now, as you may be aware of, a cover 4 would be used in most cases in a long yardage situation for the offense, meaning the offense needs to get, I don't know, somewhere in between 10 or more yards. Maybe, you know, some coaches on the offense side of the ball might get in this type of formation if they need somewhere like 7 yards. But anyway, a long yardage situation is kind of the perspective or the opinion of the defensive coordinator. And so you might get a formation like this. And so we're expecting something down the football field, and so we're not too concerned with the underneath zones. If you haven't watched my basic underneath zone video, you can go back and do so, where I discuss all of the underneath zones, the flats, the no cover zone, the out, the curls, and the hooks. And so you may want to go back and revisit that. But we're expecting a long yardage pass situation. We are one of the weaknesses or the soft spots of this type of coverage are the underneath zones, and you'll see why here after the diagram is completely drawn up. But we do want to protect the deep ball, and so let's go ahead and here and number the wide receivers. So I did do a video on numbering wide receivers pre-snap. You can check that one out at your leisure as well. But going outside in, the X would be number 1, the H would be number 2. On the right side, the Z would be number 1, and the Y would be number 2. The fullback in the backfield would be 3 no matter what. And as you know, in 11-man football, there should be 5 eligible receivers. So the X, the H, the fullback, the tight end or the Y, and the Z, those are your 5 wide receivers for 11-man football here in this diagram. However, when you go from left to right and you count the wide receivers, the X is 1, the H is 2, the fullback would still be number 3. Going from right to left, the Z would be number 1, the tight end would be number 2, and the fullback would still be number 3. So the fullback is 3 regardless, but there's your 5 receivers, and that's the formation we're going to draw up for the sake of this video. Let's go ahead and put in our defensive line. I'm going to drop a 4-3 just for the sake of this video. So there's my 5 technique. We're going to assume it's a right call, 3 technique, and my 9 technique. So there's my 4-man defensive line. And now I'm going to start putting in my coverage players. My linebacker, I'm going to start with my Mike linebacker. I'm going to put him in a 17, a 1 technique on the strong side at about 7 yards. So there's my Mike. Now, for my outside linebackers, because like I said, I am going to drop a 4-3 for the sake of this video, I would tell my outside linebacker to break the box and split the difference in between the number 2 wide receiver and the end man on the line of scrimmage. Same thing for the outside backer on the other side, the end man on the line of scrimmage and the number 2 wide receiver. So with that being said, my Will, because like I said, this was a right call, I would have Will go inside leverage of number 2 and be about 5 yards off of the man. So number 2 is in the backfield. So here's 1 yard, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But we're going to split the difference in between number 2 and the end man on the line of scrimmage. So my Will backer is actually going to be somewhere pre-snap sitting right there. Not really a box player, But if he needs to come in here, if the quarterback and the fullback run some type of zone read, the wheel can help out on that fullback as he comes across the face of the quarterback. But he's out of the box a little bit, but he can also get to H if H were to run some type of bubble or something quick like that. So that's why I do that, so that the outside backer can get to the number 2 wide receiver quickly, but can also get back into the box quickly and help on the run. Same thing on this side. He's going to the Sam is going to be inside leverage of number 2, 5 yards off of the man. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then he's going to be again in between the end man on the line of scrimmage and the number 2 wide receiver. So my Sam is going to be sitting somewhere like that. So there are my linebackers. Let's talk about the secondary alignment. Let's go from left to right. The cornerback on the left side, I would tell my cornerback to begin somewhere between 10 and 10 and 12 yards off of the line of scrimmage. So there's 5, 10, 11, 12, and we want the cornerbacks to be outside leverage of number 1. So he's going to be outside leverage of number 1, 12 yards off the ball, like so. Same thing, I did say left to right, but I'm going to actually go over to the right corner. Same thing, 5, 10, 12 yards off the line of scrimmage, outside leverage of number 1. So that cornerback would be sitting over there. Let's go back to the left side. My safeties. I would have my safeties in a 4-3 cover 4. 12 yards off the ball, but directly on the top of a immediate number 2 threat. So H is an immediate number 2 threat. There's 5, there's 10, and there's 12 yards off of the line of scrimmage, right on top of the number 2 wide receiver. My free safety would be sitting just like that, reading 2 to 1. Same thing on this side, 5, 10, 11, 12, right on top of number 2. My strong safety is going to be sitting right on top of number 2, which is the tight end, reading 2 to 1. When I say reading 2 to 1, reading the number 2 wide receiver to the number 1 wide receiver. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. Why do we call this a cover 4? Well, I'm going to divide the field and show you exactly what I mean. So if we divide the field in half, we're going to go right up the quarterback, right up the center. I did put the diagram right in the center of the football field. And so if we divide this, that's going to split the hook zones, and we go all the way up the football field. We have divided that field in half. That would be a cover 2. We got to divide the field again one more time, and this is where your rules might want to come in. And depending on whether you're a youth football coach, high school coach, or player, or college player, and even in NFL, you're going to have to find out some rules. Where do you want to divide the center point of the football field to the sideline to build your quarters? Well, in this type of situation, if we divided from the sideline to the midline another half, I would maybe say 2 yards outside of the seam or outside of the hash marks. So if we went 1, 2 yards and we divided this thing up, it would be somewhere around here, 2 yards outside of the hash marks. We build that up on both sides, and with that being done, we now have created our quarters of the field that our secondary players know they are responsible for. So over here you have a quarter, over here you have a quarter, and 4 quarters make $1. So there's our whole. So now we know that the cornerback on the right cornerback over here is responsible for this quarter of the field. The strong safety is responsible for this quarter of the field. The free safety is responsible for this quarter of the field. And the cornerback over here is responsible for the left outermost quarter of the football field. So with that being said, that is why we have our cover 4, which is the denominator. If we're talking about math, the denominator down in those fractions. There's our cover 4 zones. Deep zones. We're not talking about underneath zones. Let's drop some routes ran by the some potential routes ran by the receivers here, and see how we would cover some of this up off of some simple rules. I'm gonna draw the routes in X's and O's yellow, and let's say we have the X and the H running a wheel route, and a classic wheel route. Break in like this and then run up the seam somewhere like so, and the H would come behind that number 1 and try to get up the outermost quarter. So there's a wheel route over there. Let's say on the backside we just get a Y running a seam, or maybe even a skinny post, who knows, something like that. And then let's just say Z is running a go straight up the football field. And then let's say that we have the fullback running a Texas route into that middle of the football field as something like a check down. So as I said in the beginning of the video, as a defensive player, defensive coordinator, we are expecting a deep passing situation, and so here you can see we have 4 verticals. Well, we have 4 verticals and we have a cover 4. Therefore, we should be able to cover this up pretty easily. Now, what are the rules and how are we going to cover this? Let's talk about the underneath zones first. Let's go to the will linebacker. His rule is that he's going to stay inside leverage of number 2, and he is going to cover the curl to the flat. So again, I did do the video on underneath zones. This would be the curl and this would be the flat. So he kind of has a hybrid coverage there. If something did go into the out over there, he could run out there, but the general rule is curl to flat. Well, nothing is attacking the flat. Number 2 is running the will. So as soon as these two switch, number 1 will become the new number 2. So the X would become the new number 2. But as will, at the snap of the ball, he's going to clear run. He recognizes pass. He's going to start dropping, staying inside leverage of number 2 into his curl. He sees nothing is attacking the flat. Now he sees this new number 2 coming in. He might be able to sit underneath this and then just kind of float in this curl area somewhere in there. So he's going to kind of guard, but he can also look for this new number 2 running into his zone. So he's going to help out there. Again, he's going to stay inside leverage of number 2, gaining that depth, staying in the curl and looking to run up on anything in the flat. The other outside backer in this case would be the Sam. He's going to clear the run and he's going to want to try to get inside leverage of number 2. Number 2 is running directly through his curl. Again, this is the curl on this side and this would be the flat. So he's playing inside leverage of number 2, curl to flat, and he sees he's going to try to get this little bump on number 2, or at least bracket him with the strong safety. So you can see the Sam backer would be inside leverage of number 2 and the safety would be outside leverage. So that's a nice bracket right there. We're basically 2-on-1 right there on that seam route, which is nice because a player and a good tight end, he's going to be an athlete, and that's going to be a nice area to attack for the offense. So if we can bracket that like that off of our rules, we'll be in good shape. But we can see the Y is going to clear the curl, so this Sam backer is going to want to settle down and just kind of hang out in that curl area, just like Will did on the other side. Mike is reading number 3, and Mike is going to be inside leverage of number 3, which is the fullback, and Mike is going to play the hook. These are both hook. That's the left hook. This is the right hook to either of the curls. So Mike can help out on any of those 4 underneath zones. Well, he's going to stay inside leverage number 3. Number 3 is attacking the right hook on the defensive side of the ball. So he's going to clear run. Fullback and quarterback are on a running threat right now, so he's going to try to stay on top of that number 3 in that hook. So as you can see, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is not a strong coverage for underneath zones. I only have 3 players to cover my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 underneath zones. I only have 3 players to do that. So we're going to give up in a cover 4. We're going to give up some underneath short passes. But that's not why we call this coverage. We call this coverage to stop the deep ball. And so as you can see, we still have 4 verticals going deep. Let's talk about the left cornerback. This left cornerback, again, is going to be outside leverage of number 1. And he's going to get into his back pedal. And he's going to see number 1. He's going to see number 1 turn into the new number 2. Pass that off to the free safety. And he has to read, like I said, the safeties are going to be reading 2 to 1. The corner has to read 1 to 2. So as soon as 1 starts going in, he already has to account for 2 coming out. Basic rule in football: when one player vacates an area, another player is coming in somewhere. So 1 goes in, 2 is going to come out. The H back is the new number 1 receiver. He's going to stay on top of that route all the way down the field in that outermost left quarter that we divided up earlier. So we're on top of the H on that wheel route. Again, the free safety is reading 2 to 1. And this is a mirror image of the cornerback. So 2 goes out. The free safety should see 1 coming in, and that free safety is going to be in a back pedal seeing all this, but he has to get on the top. He has to stay on top of that X receiver running the inside part of the wheel route. So we're on top of both of those routes. None of that over there hurts us, and the will linebacker might be able to help bracket the middle of the football field there, with X being number 1, turning into the new number 2. Let's go over here. This cornerback's job is pretty easy because he's going to get a go route coming right at him. So he's going to be in a back pedal. Number 1 doesn't go inside, so he's not even worried about number 2. He just has to turn his hips and stay on top of the Z, which is number 1, and stays number 1. The strong safety is aligned on top of number 2, and number 2 does not run out or in, and he's pressing his quarter. So this strong safety should be in a back pedal. He's going to open his hips, and he's going to have to stay on top. He's going to have to stay on top of number 2 all the way in his quarter. So as you can see, we have all vertical routes covered in this cover 4. Mike should be taking care of number 3 there in the curl. This type of situation would not hurt this defense. The only thing that might hurt this defense is if our Will linebacker, our Mike linebacker, and our Sam linebacker get some pretty good depth in their drops, and the quarterback is a running threat, scrambles around. He might be able to pick up a first down, but hopefully we can run up on anything short and a scrambling quarterback, and we can run up on that and tackle that. Our defensive line should be getting some good pressure. One of the D tackles are going to have to demand a double team, and that leaves everybody else one-on-one on that pass protection, on that pass rush. So basic rules for cover 4. It's a soft zone meant to stop the deep ball. Got to know the strengths and the weaknesses of every defense and every defensive coverage, but these are the basic rules that I employ. This has been a video discussing the basic coverage rules for a cover 4, and if you'd like to leave any comments in the comment section of the video, please do so. You can email me at xzandos.com. Appreciate your time. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and there will be more videos to come.